I am on a mission to complete as much of old school RuneScape as I possibly can before I die in real life. Last video I fished 1 million Karambuens, and not only did I fish them all, I also one-tick cooked every single one of them and got my first 200 mil skill. I then sold them all and hit my biggest cash stack on the account so far and bought myself a whole bunch of upgrades. I also played Deadman mode, getting enough points to unlock every single cosmetic that was released, past and present. I did also get a bunch of sailing levels from Lamps and Tears of Gothics, so I'll be starting this video off at around level 50. Which just so happens to be the perfect starting point to build my first salvaging ship. I was mostly AFKing at the start of this grind so that I could work on other videos at the same time. Although, unlike most skills in the game, I can't just buy something like a dragon axe and get wood cutting. Instead, with sailing, you have to jump through a whole bunch of hoops first, like finding schematics to build a salvaging station on board the ship, along with building the salvaging hooks and the cargo hold, amongst a bunch of other upgrades. It's also a good idea to get some starter crewmates. I went with Jobless Jim and Captain Syed as they're the best at the moment for helping with salvaging. With that done, it was time to park my boat and gain some levels. Luckily, I did end up finding the Sailor's Amulet fairly quickly, along with the Broken Compass and the Facility Bottle collection logs. The Amulet is a nice teleport to get around some various ports. Each salvaging location also has its own sea treasure to find, which counts as a log slot, which was the Broken Compass. I'll be taking all of the sea treasures back to the Varrock Museum later on too. Whilst it is kind of annoying to get set up for sailing, I do have to say it's quite a nice AFK skill to do in the background. After leveling up a little bit, you just move from one location to another, making sure to upgrade your ship a couple of times where necessary. After a few level ups, it's also worth checking if you can get some better crewmates too, which is what I did after hitting level 65 and getting Cabin Boy Jenkins on board, who is particularly good at salvaging. At the next location, I instantly got the Rusty Coin Sea Treasure and the first Dragon Cannonball for another log slot, and I'm getting quite lucky so far. A little after level 73, it was time to build an inoculation station so that I could venture into the fetid waters, and after a couple more level ups, I upgraded to rune salvaging hooks. I did consider getting dragon hooks later on, but they were going for around 20 mil each at this point, and I didn't really think it was worth it or necessary. I'd much rather buy some upgrades for the upcoming Slayer grind instead. Those rune hooks also instantly got me one of the rarest collection logs from sailing very early on from Marshall salvages. I'm pretty sure that's the super rare one, 1 in 24k. Okay. 1 in 24k, hell yeah. I know somebody has gone super dry on that and they're very annoyed watching this right now. I don't even have the broken sextant yet. And I'm at 4.5k salvages right now. Oh man, I'm so glad I don't have to grind that one out. Hell yeah. I'm really glad that I got that one early so that I could move on to the more higher XP locations. I definitely would have stayed here for this paint even if I went 3 or 4 times dry for it, so it was a big time save. Not only did I get the Salvers paint though, I did also get the broken sextant not long after too. You might also be wondering why my ship looks a little bit weird, and that's because I'm using a RuneLight plugin that hides the sail. I found it really distracting, and when I'm not moving my boat, I just don't need to see it. There's also a bunch of broken animations and weird clipping with sailing. I don't think any of that was to do with any plugins that I turned on. The whole game has just had some really weird graphical issues since the skill released months ago for me. Another schematic that I needed to find for my boat was the Eternal Brazier. If you haven't done sailing yet, you find a key on one island that then opens a chest on another for these schematics. So they're essentially free collection logs. Also, on these islands you can build facilities like bank chests and furnaces, so being a completionist, I made sure to build everything that I could find on the wiki. The bank chests are a little bit pricey because they need a magic stone in order to be built, but the rest of them are fairly cheap. Also, while sailing around, I did make sure to do a little bit of sea charting for the captain's log, although I'll be doing the bulk of this later on too. Something I'd recommend, which you've probably seen before, is to make sure that you've equipped a few random items on the off chance that you come across a giant clam. This is one of the few random events that happens when you're sailing about. You offer the items to the clam, and then when you find it again, it'll give a pearl based on the value of the item, and the pearls are another set of collection logs on their own. Once the ship was upgraded, I moved on to the next salvaging location and got myself the smashed mirror, as well as a bunch more levels too. Then it was time to move on to the highest level location, being the merchant shipwrecks with its opulent salvage. Yet again, the YouTube RNG kicked in and I got the dragon nail collection log, and very quickly after, the moldy doll too. The next upgrade for the boat required another schematic, and that was the rosewood cargo hold. And after hitting level 90, I got lucky once again with another great collection log.
Oh, well, I was AFK, but there's the dragon cannon barrel. I still gotta go to all of the low level salvaging, but I've basically got every single collection log, which is absolutely incredible.
One more level up came in, and I recruited 2 more crewmates, being Jolly Jim and Adventurer Ada. And like I said in that last clip, I went back to the start of salvaging wrecks to find the sea treasures from the lower level locations. Strangely, the higher level wrecks didn't have this boat bottle in their loot tables, so that was essentially a free log slot. And then I quickly got the rusty locket a little bit after. And at this point though, the RNG started to slow down a little bit, but I did get the moldy block as well as the dull knife.
Ah, finally got the last collection log. This one was really annoying because I had to keep switching spots because there's nobody else doing it. I'm on the salvaging world right now, but there's literally nobody, not even on the other one. So this was not fun.
So that's all of the log slots obtained from salvaging, apart from the pet, I suppose. But I was still working on some other videos in the background, so I got a few more levels, bringing me up to level 96, and along the way I got another dragon cannon barrel. With my work then finished on the other videos, I could actively play the game, so I started off with knocking out some of the sailing quests like Prying Times and Current Affairs, which lets me chart a few more items across the map. Another quest was the Troubled Tortugans, which unlocks a new Slayer boss being the Shellbane Griffin, and a new island that has a new Calquat tree farming spot, as well as some new trees to woodcut, the Coral Nursery, and a bunch of other nice bits. I figured whilst I was on a little questing spree, I may as well knock out the Ides of Milk. It's not a sailing quest, but it was a quick one, and it unlocks the new cow boss in Lumbridge. I did consider greenlogging it and getting the pet real quick, but I'm trying my best not to get distracted. I really want to max as soon as possible and get back to TOA. After the quests were knocked out, I had a quick look at the Schematics collection log tab. I'm currently at 3 out of 11, and I figured I'd buy a skiff to get around the sea quicker whilst grabbing them. It'll also be super useful for charting and racing later on too. That said, building the skiff did start becoming a little expensive, although I'd say it was worth it though in the end. I mentioned before that I was building all of the facilities that I could find on all of the new islands, but one that I didn't mention was the new shortcuts. There's this rowboat one that takes you from Corsair Cove to this new hardwood farming spot, which is quite nice. It brings the hardwood spots up to 5 now, which will make the rest of my 200mm farming grind a little bit quicker. Another thing that I had on my to-do list was these Medallion fragments. They're all kind of scattered across these new locations, and you have to do little tasks in order to grab them. They're also needed for the sea treasure portion of the collection log too. But yeah, at this point it's just a cycle of sailing around the ocean, grabbing schematics, medallion fragments, charting, and building facilities. I'm sure I won't actually use many, if any, of these outside of the shortcuts, but completing little things like this scratch an itch deep in my completionist brain. One thing that everyone should unlock when they start sailing is the best in slot dance emote, being the crab dance. You just chart the crab monument on Windtember Island, although something you might not know though, is there is actually an enhanced version of the emote when you wear a crab claw, a claw hook, or a crab helmet. It was also around this time I got my first clam collection log, which was nice. I do wish I moved around a little bit more during salvaging so that I could have knocked out more of these, but it's not that big of a deal. I'll probably get the rest done when I go for 200 mil in this skill eventually, or when they inevitably add more content. Another free collection log you can get is the Ava's Attractor equivalent schematic for your ship, which saves cannonballs. I'm pretty sure you just need to do the quest and to speak to the NPC for this, which to me raises the question of why is this a collection log in the first place? You have items like the Brutus slippers from beating the hard mode version of the Cow boss, and that's not a collection log. I guess there is a point to be made about there being a lot of bloat with sailing, I do have to say. But carrying on with the progress, I combined all of the fragments to make the Amulet of the Deep, which lets you breathe underwater without the diving gear. It's also used as a master stash item, so I'm glad to have knocked that one out. I then took the sea treasure salvaging items to the museum and traded them in for some kudos and XP lamps. I figured dumping them into Slayer was probably a better choice than using them on sailing, and I also traded in the duplicate ones too, which just gave me some GP, so I kinda wish I just kept them in the bank as a trophy. Oh well. Now that I had all of the schematics, I carried on with upgrading my skiff so that I could start charting as fast as I possibly could. If I didn't need to AFK, I would have started this much sooner because of the rewards that you get. Overall, I quite enjoyed charting. It's made a little bit easier with a quest helper plugin, as there's a charting helper on it too. The only part I didn't like was all of the bottles that you get from prying open the crates. I get that it's supposed to be funny and that they have all of these weird negative effects, but in my opinion, some of them just add unnecessary friction for essentially no reason. Like, you'll be deep in the northwest of the map, you drink a bottle and be teleported into the middle of the desert and have to claim back your boat. It's just dumb, honestly. I also really did not like that bowl that essentially forces you into a 5-minute cutscene that's supposed to be some kind of meditation or whatever. It would have been cool to see some different effects that reuse some old content that was removed, like being teleported to the old Abyss random event, or those old strange boxes that would multiply in your inventory if you got it wrong. Something like that. Besides that though, it was a fun time exploring the map. I wasn't able to chart absolutely everything with just a skiff. Some of the locations needed a raft in order to get to because of its size. And one of the last charts that I did gave me this rare black lobster, which, according to the wiki, has a weird little Easter egg where the lobster cries out for help, which has a 1 in 3k chance of happening when you interact with it. How somebody is able to find that without looking at the game cache or whatever is beyond me. But yeah, now that I've charted the entire ocean, I got a gigantic 213k XP drop from charting Charles McCatless in the Pandemonium Cave. I also bought a bunch of beers that give a random buff while sailing too, but I'll need to build some kegs on board the ships later on. I also talked to Gerardus, who gives some mysterious items on completing some of the seas, which when traded into the corresponding NPCs awards some new collection logs, being the Armadillo paint, the Guthix paint, Saradomin paint, and the Zamarag paint. I won't be going for all of the paints in this video, but I did knock out some of the other easier ones, being the sandy paint from doing the crab dance whilst killing a hermit crab, and the shark paint from doing the port tasks. Next up, for the last few levels, I decided that I'd take on the Barracuda trials and greenlog that entire section. As of recording, there's 3 different trials which are essentially boat racing time trials. Each one has 3 log slots as well. A key to unlock a sailing outfit, a fabric roll that can be used to make a cosmetic flag on your ship, and the most interesting item being an upgrade for your ship. The first race near Temperos was a walk in the park after building a near max skiff, so that unlocked one of the keys, fabric rolls, and a barrel stand for those beers I mentioned earlier. Next was the Jubbly Jive. The first couple of times for the key and the captured wind moat was fairly easy, but the Marlin rank took a good few attempts after building a gale catcher, but I eventually cracked it and got the fabric roll. Then the last trial was the Prif course. Again, just like Jubbly Jive, the first couple of times were really quite straightforward, but I ended up choking twice on the Marlin rank time. Although, after practicing the course and getting used to the teleporters and the route, I did manage to beat it. So that's the Barracuda trials greenlogged, for now at least. I do think they'll add 1 or 2 more trials at some point. Maybe in a couple of years time or something. Anyway, I figured I'd build those kegs, and after 1 more level AFKing while salvaging, I went back to do the elf course for the last level. It's actually kind of fun, and it's a decent XP rate to be honest. And overall, I'd say with sailing, it's a good addition to the game. It fits thematically, but I do think it needs refining a little bit. It's certainly better and more interesting than other skills like fire making, that's for sure. But at the same time, it's not one of my favourites, and I probably won't touch it much outside of future quests. Maybe I can do a little bit of salvaging to AFK, but I don't see myself doing the full 200mil grind anytime soon. But yeah, there's 99 sailing, just 1 more to go for maxing. I used up all of those trial keys to unlock the 3 outfits. I then got the skill cape, and I stored a bunch of stuff inside the containers in my POH. Looking at the loot tab for this video, it comes out to roughly 40 mil. I did also make a small mistake after selling that loot tab by misclicking the choices when checking Kingdom, so I have a bunch more stuff to sell off too. So, after that got sold, I ended up with a cash stack of 372 mil. It's usually around this time I show off my Dopamine tab, but it's going to be a real short segment this time as I didn't get many, if any, clues from sailing. I also mentioned in the last video that I won't be pet hunting in leagues, but I have gotten a little bit addicted and carried away. So that'll be the next video where I'll be showing exactly what I got up to. I also want to give a huge thank you to all of my channel members that support me. At the supporter tier, Carl Henry, Scooter McGavin 2, Tom, Ciotos, and Henrik the Epic. And at the benefactor tier, Crimson and Dustis. Thank you all so much.